Welcome back to Session 0, where I discuss Dungeon World every Wednesday. Today I want to take a look at 5 things for Dungeon World from Burnt Offerings, the first adventure path in Rise of the Runelords from Pathfinder. Let's just go ahead and jump right in, starting at page 5. Number 1 on the list is actually more to do with Pathfinder's view on goblins than something specifically from Burnt Offerings, but it's a lot of fun. It's 10 fun facts about goblins. These are 10 things that make goblins very, very different in Pathfinder than they are in D&D. And I think that is a really fun way to make Dungeon World unique and your own. Number 1, start by doing this yourself, even if you only take 5 things instead of making a list of 10 things that make something unique. Show that to your players, and then at some point, introduce something new and ask your players, what are 5 things about this that make them unique? Dungeon World is so collaborative that you can get a lot of mileage out of doing something like this. Goblins can be very different. Orcs, elves, dwarves. Everything can be very different in Dungeon World, and especially with the collaborative nature, you can go really far and do some really fun things. Number 2 can be found on page 11, and it is just the chapter synopsis for the first chapter of Burnt Offerings. Now this is only 2 paragraphs long, but what I've been doing recently, whether I'm reading fiction or a book like this, is I like to break down segments like this into 7 to 10 word summaries. You can then take that summary and bend it and twist it and make something completely new, something very different than what you've read here. So I've taken these 2 paragraphs and turned them into these 10 words. Fire-loving goblins interrupt festival in town over ancient dungeon. Now you can take those 10 words and make a very different story than you see here in this first chapter of Burnt Offerings. It's a really fun little exercise, and I challenge you to do that when you're reading things. I've done this with Star Wars books, with Harry Potter books, and just that real small piece of brevity can lead to a lot of new things that you can add to your Dungeon World game. Number 3 is the town of Sandpoint itself. I'm going to turn all the way in the back here to get to the map. This is a gorgeous map, a really fun looking town. And I've actually used this town more in Dungeon World than any village, town, or city from any other source book. There are a ton of NPCs and businesses that you can call on using your game from this chapter. A lot of really cool stuff, and I highly recommend getting some source book with Sandpoint because it is a fantastic village, or rather town, to use in any of your Dungeon World games. Number 4 is going to be all the way back on page 29. This is the Sandpoint Glassworks. It's a really cool idea. It's kind of like a modern business that you might not find in other fantasy worlds, but they take the sand and turn it into glass. Now it's an interesting building. There are some interesting unique rooms within this building, but also this is the entrance to that ancient dungeon which I mentioned in my 10-point summary. These are smuggling tunnels, and they lead, unknownst to the town, to a dungeon, which is kind of the first part of this campaign. So, really interesting building, really fun map. It's the entrance to a dungeon. You can just take those ideas and turn them into some really fun adventures for Dungeon World. Finally, coming in at number 5 are a couple of unique named monsters. This is a goblin named Corvus, and he's got 3 arms, he's got some mutations. It's a really cool idea. something that you can, again, take as inspiration for your Dungeon World game. When you are talking about new monsters, or maybe not even new monsters, but different ways that monsters are different in your world, you can think of doing something like this. There's also Aurelium. Aurelium is a quasit, and this is a named quasit with a really cool piece of art. Again, just think about making things unique for your game. Don't just make a goblin, make a 3-armed, crazy-looking goblin. I think that's a lot of fun. So that's it. Those are 5 things from Burnt Offerings, the first part of Rise of the Runelords from Pathfinder. Now, nothing I did in this video was a direct conversion, but it's really just an examination of ideas. There are some really, really cool ideas in Burnt Offerings. I will continue to go through this book. There are 5 more paths, or 5 more parts to Rise of the Runelords. If anyone is interested, let me know in the comments if you want me to continue that. You guys know what to do. If you enjoy my content, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. Thanks for watching, and I hope you come back next week. Have a great day.